Last year, the United States had the highest reported incidences of K through 12 school shootings in nearly 3 decades. And 5 of those shootings occurred in this region. Everybody wants safe schools for our children and grandchildren and those who teach them. But how to make our schools safer is a challenge when the issue gets caught up in both gun control and Second Amendment rights issues. Now, some state lawmakers are trying to find common sense solutions that could bridge the gap. In the wake of ongoing school shootings, last year, Governor Wolf and a bipartisan group of state lawmakers approved $60 million to help school districts upgrade school safety. But many say it's not enough.
Many schools use that money to improve the physical safety of their buildings, but many more asked for more sustained assistance in relation to trained professionals to help connect the kids, to improve learning, and to address problems before they occur.
A group of Democratic legislators led by Representative Dan Miller of Mount Lebanon introduced bills to provide services, including counseling, to identify potential shooters before bad acts occur.
Quite simply, in today's society, no educational environment is complete without access to appropriate professional support in every grade, in every school, and in every district.
One lawmaker said it's important for schools to have resources to help kids who experience trauma in their lives, citing an example of an upset student.
And when they finally dug down to the bottom of it, that kid had witnessed someone being shot that morning on their walk to school. Those are the types of things that we need to be able to address in the schools and not wait until we have a tragedy like we just saw in Colorado yesterday.
The package of bills would increase counselors and social workers for schools, mandate depression screening for students, require reporting of attempted student suicides, train school resource officers, increase anti-bullying programs, and increase the number of school nurses.
These talented, dedicated people are spread so thin and wear so many different hats that they just can't do everything they'd like to do for our children.
Miller noted Republican colleagues already support some of these measures, and he hopes for bipartisan passage soon. Now, to dig deeper into these proposals, we are delighted to be joined by 2 lawmakers who are working together on legislation to improve school safety. State Representative Dan Miller is a Mount Lebanon Democrat who's been a leading advocate for mental health awareness and programs for persons with disabilities. State Representative Jason Ortitay is a Cecil Republican who is a member of the School Safety and Security Committee. Gentlemen, it's great to have you on the show, and thank you for the work you're doing in Harrisburg. Much appreciated. Dan, you mentioned in the story we just showed how important it is for bipartisanship, and that's really true when the legislature is controlled by Republicans. So what's the progress report so far on all this?
Well, first, thank you, and I also always glad to share a stage with my good friend, Representative Ortitay. Look, there's no doubt that we've had some conversations with the leadership of the Education Committee in the House. We recognize that there are some bills that are moving on somewhat different tracks. I do think there's an appetite and an interest from members of both parties, like myself and Jason, including some aspects of both of our leaderships, who want to see movement and know that it's needed as an important step from what we didn't address last year.
Right. Well, let me ask you, Jason, because it's your party that controls what gets voted on. Are you comfortable that some of the measures that we just outlined there, and I know you're involved with some of them, right, do you think some of those will get to the House floor this year?
Absolutely. It's my hope that we can get some of this stuff tied in with the budget before we break for the summer at the end of June. And whatever we don't get to, I hope we get to and we get back in the fall as quickly as possible. To be quite honest, I think we've waited long enough. It's way overdue, and I think we need to get to it as soon as possible.
Can you give us some ideas? What kind of legislation do you think the legislature might act on?
Well, as of yesterday, I got a heads up that we might be moving my school safety threat assessment bill on June 17th when we get back.
Tell us briefly about that bill.
It's basically a bill that requires every school district to put together a threat assessment team to review threats internally, to look at students to see if they're having any issues. This way we could figure out what problems are going on and get them help before something major happens.
How about bills that I'm focused on with respect to mental health counseling, increase in school nursing and resource officers and the like? Any prospect on that, Jason?
I think those are all being looked at. I would look for some hearings that are coming up soon. At least I hope so. I think those are all great ideas.
Do you think that the gun rights and the issue gets caught up in this? Is it because some of the things that you both are suggesting seem to have nothing to do, frankly, with Second Amendment rights, which everybody and a lot of folks in this area clearly want to support.
So I'll be honest, in the package of bills that I think you're referencing that we've talked about together, I do not see much of a correlation between the two topics, nor do I feel it or hear it back from constituents on either side of the issue. I would note, obviously, look, we are talking about mental health, disability issues. It's a lot of things that Jason and I work on together and care about, but we are referencing this in the light of safety. I want to be clear, though, the vast majority of anybody with a mental health issue or a disability diagnosis, they're of no threat to anyone, right?
Right.
So we're also taking advantage of, while, yes, we want to talk about there are sometimes acts of violence that can be done or incidents that are not helpful for education that come up that may be committed or done by somebody who has a mental health or a diagnosis of some type. What we're really talking about is, let's not forget that we have a problem. We have a shortage of counselors, therapists, nurses across the board. Every time I talk to a superintendent, their point was, I don't need to worry about X, Y, and Z on the physical side. What I need to do is give me trained people who could help make positive connections to kids.
As you know, last year the legislature, bipartisan with the governor, voted for $60 million. There are 500 school districts, gentlemen. That's not even $1 million per school district. Is that enough?
So no, not at all.
Jason, is that enough?
Well, we had over $330 million in requests from the 500 school districts, including some of the charter schools as well.
Well,
and
there you
the
go.
VOTEC. So
$330 million.
There is definitely a need, and we have to fight that balance between the local school districts and the state providing that money.
John, one quick thing on that too is we have to be sure that the VOTEC schools are also part of that discussion.
Of course.
We need to go where all of our kids are being educated, including, in some regards, our approved private schools need to be thought about.
Right.
And we are looking to make some changes in that process this year.
Bottom line, will we see more than $60 million this year?
I hope so.
I hope so. Hope so. Hope so. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I wish we had more time to talk about these topics. This is so important. We're going to have you back again as we make progress on this through this calendar year. Thank you again for sharing with us and for your leadership. Appreciate it.